Hey little ones, Lee here, and we're talking about The Expendables, the action movie written by Sylvester Stallone, produced by Sylvester Stallone, starring Sylvester Stallone, directed by Sylvester Stallone, so yeah, Sylvester Stallone. So it's going to be an action movie, obviously, and you guys all know what The Expendables are, and if you don't, basically Sly sent out a memo to all the action stars of the last 20 years and said, hey, show up for this movie. So most of them did. And it's really what you would expect. It's not a compelling narrative by any means. There's little to no character development all movie, and yet this movie is incredibly enjoyable for action fans. I'll start off kind of like who the characters are. There's Sylvester Stallone, obviously, is the lead character, and he leads this troop of mercenaries called the Expendables. And really there's no humongous tale to these guys. It's just a bunch of army mercs who now make a living taking jobs. This movie just follows them on one of their jobs, which is like, the kind of their biggest, hardest job they've had yet. And essentially they're to take down a tyrant out in another nation. And that's really it. Just take down this tyrant. Not a complicated story, but you know what? You don't need a complicated formula for an action movie. There's a bad guy, gotta go take him out. That's really all that you need. This movie essentially was made for three reasons, in my opinion. The first reason is the obvious, just to make a exciting, enjoyable action film. And that's, that's all it really needed to do. And it definitely comes through on that. I'll touch on why in a bit. The second reason this movie was made, and in my opinion, the real reason it was made, again, it's Sylvester Stallone telling himself, I've still got it. I gotta give him credit. He is in terrific shape for a man twice my age who looks significantly better than me. That's kind of made me feel depressed, but hey, whatever. And he's shown that, yeah, maybe he's not what he was 20, 25 years ago, but he still has every right to be billed as an action star. There was actually a scene, a triple standoff with Sylvester, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Bruce Willis, and it actually in a way kind of felt hollow because, it was Stallone knowing these guys aren't in the shape they were 20, 25 years ago. So he's like, hey, look, I still got it. And I don't know, if this scene took place 15, 20 years ago when these guys were in their absolute prime, it would have been just a absolutely breathtaking, monumental moment in cinematic history. But seeing it today now where it was really nothing more than just a one-upsmanship, it lost a lot of the feeling. It wasn't the final, finally happened, uniting that we'd all come to expect. It felt kind of cut and dry, which was sort of disappointing. I wish this had happened earlier in their careers. The third and, in my opinion, most important reason this movie happened is in a way it felt like it was passing on the torch. Like, okay, Stallone has shown he still can do some action, but Jet Li and Jason Statham just owned this movie. They stole the scene every second they were on the screen. And it was like there's actually a scene where the two of them are kind of one-upping each other on one bad guy. And it's kind of neat seeing that, the torch hasn't passed on to these two. And I'm kind of hoping they'll have the professional rivalry of the Schwarzenegger and Stallone from the 1980s because both these guys can deliver. They're different kinds of action stars from Stallone and Arnold. And I really am excited to see, now that the torch has been officially passed on, what these two are going to do for the coming years. The music in this movie is nothing to write home about. It's a bunch of classic rock and a bunch of hard rock. It doesn't really fit the scenes that it's in. Doesn't really fit the movie that they're in. But, they're manly tunes. And that's all this movie was really about, was just being as manly and testosterone-filled as possible. It feels like the people at Spike TV were given a memo and just saying, make up a movie. Money's no object. And that's kind of what it feels like it is. It's not a huge, compelling narrative. It's not an epic, sweeping tale. It's not about a harrowing experience as, overcoming adversity. It's literally a bunch of badasses are together and stuff's blowing up, cars are flipping, and punches are being thrown. And that's all you need in this kind of a movie. Probably the one glaring weakness of this movie, and not in all cases, but in a lot of the cases, was the special effects. The blood effects looked very cartoony. The green screen, there was times it was laughable in 2010 that green screening effects like this would be passed off as acceptable, but again, this wasn't a movie that was about special effects. Like, a lot was left to the imagination, and I think that's really all you need in an action movie, because, You're suspending your belief of reality. You're checking your brain at the door. You're just sitting down for an hour and a half to watch crap blow up and have a good time. And this movie definitely delivered. Not a whole lot to say about this movie because it's exactly what you would expect it to be. There's no twists. There's nothing that's going to leave the audience shocked or appalled or, going, oh my gosh, I can't believe they threw that in. It's exactly what you would expect it to be, but it delivered. You knew what you were going to get. You knew what you weren't going to get. And it followed through on all those expectations. So, if you're someone who likes the big epic sweeping tales, or if you're kind of squeamish, avoid this movie. But if you like just a nice, no thinking required action film for an hour and a half where you can just sit there and munch popcorn as buildings blow up and people have humongous guns, this movie is definitely for you. The full written review is on liveandlimbo.com. Go check it out. Go watch this movie if you're an action fan. You won't regret it. And it's perfect after a round of beer and some nachos with friends. See you next time.